Before Dimple came to be called Zenith, she worked part-time for Rashid and disappeared every evening to the Hijra's brothel. I smoked at her station, even if other pipes were free, and we talked the way smokers talk, horizontally, with long pauses, our words so soft they sounded like the incomprehensible phrases spoken by small children. I asked the usual foolish questions. Is it better to be a man or a woman? Dimple said, for conversation, better to be a woman. For everything else, for sex, better to be a man. Then I asked if she was a man or a woman, and she nodded, as if it was the first time she'd been asked. She was about 25 then, and she had a habit in those days of shaking the hair into her eyes and smiling for no reason at all. A sweet smile, as I remember, with no hint there of the changes that would overtake her. She said, "Woman and man are words other people use, not me. I'm not sure what I am. Some days I'm neither, or I'm nothing. On other days I feel I'm both. But men and women are so different, how can one person be both? Isn't that what you're thinking? Well, I'm both, and I've learned some things to my cost, the kind of things you're better off not knowing if you mean to live in the world. For example, I know something about love and how lovers want to consume and be consumed and disappear into each other. I know how they yearn to make two equal one, and I know it can never be. What else? Women are more evolved biologically and emotionally. That's well known and it's obvious. But they confuse sex and the spirit. They don't separate. Men, as you know, always separate. They separate their human and dog natures." And then she said, "I'd like to tell you more about it, about the family resemblance between men and dogs, because I have plenty to say, as you may have guessed, but what would be the point? There's little chance you'd understand. After all, you're a man." She'd learned English by conversing with customers, and she was teaching herself to read. She knew enough of the alphabet to recognize some of the words in the newspapers and film magazines that came her way, or the paperback novels forgotten by customers at the Khana, or the print on detergent packets and toothpaste tubes. Bengali gave her books sometimes, usually history, but also philosophy, geography, and illustrated biographies, with titles like Great Thinkers of the 20th Century and 100 Great Men of the World. He found the books in the Radi shops around Shuklaji Street, which was a center of the trade in used paper, rags, toys, junk of all kinds. He gave her books and she read in secret because she didn't like to be seen reading. She read the way an illiterate person did. She liked to look at the covers and trace the title with a finger, and if she was able to make sense of a line or a word, it gave her a thrill. I was stretched out, the Khana empty in the dead hour of the afternoon, when Dimple asked what kind of book I was reading. "It's not a book," I said. "It's a magazine, and this is a story about an Indian painter who lives in London." "Time. What a big name for a small book." "Is your painter famous?" "Here, no. In England, yes. He's a school dropout. No, I have it wrong. He was expelled for making pornographic murals in the boys' toilet. He put himself through art school and won a scholarship to Oxford. The genteel British expected him to be some kind of Hindu scholar mystic. Instead, it says here, he paints Christ with more authority than British painters." "Read." "Newton Pinter Xavier's art is Catholic guilt exploded to devastating effect. He doesn't paint as much as eviscerate and disembowel. His altered Christs are more powerful than Bacon's because they come at us with no frame of reference or none that we are able to recognize in a terrestrial context. They are a drift of history. As for geography, they remain firmly outside the purview of the British Isles, and I suspect that of the Indian subcontinent. They drip sex, heresy, and indiscriminate readings from the psychopathology of everyday life. They—" "Enough. Stop. It's too much. Let me see the pictures." The editors had thought to include several reproductions.